Hey guys, welcome back. In this week's video, we are going to be taking a look at a night market that I participated as a shopper in Thailand in a city called Hua Hin. And what I want you guys to take from this video is essentially inspiration for your own next vendor booth setup. So if you're a vendor getting ready to set up at a pop-up or vendor event, craft fair, farmer's market, anything like that, and it's your first time, I'd love for you guys to get some inspiration from this video. Or if you've done a bunch of these in the past and you're just looking to enhance the appearance of your booth, that is what this video is all about. So what's cool about this particular night market is that there were a ton of permanent style. Let me be careful how I explain this. I wouldn't say that they were permanent setups in the sense that, you know, they're able to leave all of their items every single time they leave the event. I think they still have to pack up all their stuff, but I think a bunch of the tents here, and you'll notice the first set of booths that we're looking at are primarily art vendors. And we will get to other types of vendors in just a few moments. But you can take a look at their tent situation. And what I am assuming about this particular mart is that the tents don't break down each time they leave. I think that the event organizer owns the tents for a number of these booths. And I don't think it's the case for every single vendor. We'll see some other types of tents in just a few minutes, but there are sections at this particular pop-up event where the tents are permanent. So what that means is the vendor doesn't have to bring their own tent, which I think is really cool. They can just focus on bringing their products and any decor they have to decorate. Now, this is a mart or a market that takes place, I can't remember if it was weekly or if it was just Friday and Saturday night. I think it was at least 2 or 3 nights a week that they have this particular night market. And what I've gathered about Thailand is that night markets are very popular. You'll see at the very end of the video, when I left this particular night market, we just kept walking and kind of exploring the area, and we found another night market in a different area that was maybe a 5-minute walk away. So I do think that night markets are very popular in Thailand. And what was cool about it is that it kind of was like a local hangout spot at night. There were a bunch of food vendors at this particular night market, but I'm gonna save the food vendors for a separate video. I'm going to hopefully post that video within a week or maybe 2. It is the holiday season right now, so I'm a little bit busy, but I'm gonna save the food vendors for part 2, just because I know that, you know, if you're a food vendor, you probably don't care about the other types of like retail, you know, like clothing, accessories, jewelry, toys, art, all of those types of setups. Whereas if you're not, if you are those types of setups, you probably don't care about food vendors. So anyway, now we're getting to some of the other setups for the other types of vendors. And with these, it still kind of feels like they have permanent tents that they don't break down, but I could be wrong. I couldn't really tell if these types of tents that we're seeing on the screen now were provided by the event organizer, or if the vendors all had the same tent. I think that's unlikely. I think that these were likely provided by the night market organizers. A couple other things that were fun about the night markets is that, so you could go as a family. I think a lot of locals actually go as a family, and there was live music, and there was a whole stage area where there was like a band playing, and of course there were all sorts of food options with all the food vendors, and then you could shop in the retail side as well. So one other thing, and I'm gonna show it on the screen in a little bit, but I'm thinking about it now, so I want to mention it. They actually had a whole section that was like a flea mart section, which was cool. I haven't seen that at any pop-ups that I've been to in the US, where you've got the, you know, brand new pop-up vendor selling new products plus a section for flea market, plus a section for food. So I just thought that was cool that they kind of had pretty much everything you could think of from the perspective of a vendor event, every type of vendor you could imagine. So as we continue to take a look at some of these setups, I would say that these particular vendors, it felt like they focused less on decorating an aesthetically pleasing booth and kind of just focused primarily on the products, which I think is great. I think it really depends on the type of event you're going to, because some of the events I've been to in the US, for example, they're all about having a very aesthetically pleasing booth and really attracting customers to come check out your booth. And it's kind of like the whole market is just like a vibe. And you've probably seen some of those videos that I'm talking about where I've highlighted those types of pop-ups. Whereas, you know, there are other pop-ups where it's more, you know, like farmers markets, they might decorate a little bit, but they're not focused on decorating their booth to make it, you know, aesthetically pleasing. I mean, obviously, it all comes down to your branding. And I'm not saying that farmers markets don't decorate their booths and make them aesthetically pleasing, because you do have opportunities to use your signage and tablecloths and the color of your tent and just all of that good stuff to make it aesthetically pleasing. But with this particular, what I'm trying to explain is more like, there are certain pop-up events where like I'm told like, hey, it's a holiday market, make sure that you have a Christmas tree, or maybe there's a different type of theme. Like I've done a bodacious floral flower festival several times where they really want you to go all out with the decor and make it, you know, Instagram worthy. So what I'm trying to say is this event wasn't like that. It's more like focus on the products and spend less on, you know, a themed event. All right, so now that we have moved to this section, I think this is near the flea market section. If it's not, this might be the flea market section. You'll see a sign at some point. I can't remember what part of the video you'll see the sign, but anyway, there were all sorts of vendors selling toys, lots of great things for kids. There were also, oh, here's the sign. I knew it was the flea market section. Okay, there's the, we can confirm that the vendors that we were just looking at were in fact under the flea market section. But what I was trying to say is that there were all sorts of vendors, lots of stuff for kids. There were also a ton of like souvenir style vendors, which makes sense because this is in a tourist area in Thailand, in a, it was a city area 3 hours south of Bangkok, and it's a beach town called Hua Hin. And my husband and I were there for 5 nights. So we were lucky enough to make it to the night market one night. And we had a really good time. We got to try lots of food. I do apologize for the quality of this video. And it's just, what I'll say about that is, you know, I want to be able to share these videos with you from all these different pop-up events, you know, around the world. If you saw my last video, you saw that I actually shared inspiration from a pop-up event in Japan. And after I'm done with the food vendor Thailand night market video, I'm going to work on my South Korea pop-up vendor event. So I create these videos for you guys because I want you to draw the inspiration, but they're not super high quality. And that's just comes down to my own ability to create these videos. You know, I don't have a fancy camera situation going on where I'm going to these events and I'm able to really spotlight each table close up, and I don't know what I'm trying to say. I just apologize for the quality. If you see a table that you like, you know, if it's the same type of product that you are going to sell and you want to check out how they display their products, I would just recommend hitting pause and kind of, you can either take a screenshot of that particular booth and then kind of zoom in on it, or whatever works for you. But I'm specifically apologizing right now because I realize my finger is in the camera view. So that's a terrible mistake that I made on my part. But again, I wanted to be able to try to capture all of the booths at these events, and there were so many. So I wasn't really able to do the best job at the quality, is what I'm saying. And I apologize for that. Most of you have probably already turned this video off. So if you're still here and you're enjoying checking out all the different vendors, I appreciate you. I think that it's just so interesting to check out these vendor booths around the world, because at the end of the day, they're all kind of similar, even though that they might be a little bit different in like culture and what types of products they sell, but it also at the same time it feels very similar to just vendor events in the US, which I just find so fascinating. And the event that I did, or the event I attended in Tokyo, they definitely had more of a themed event, and they had a similar color palette throughout the entire event, and I think it was a sponsored event. I didn't really know all of the details about who was hosting it. And then the South Korea event, it was a really cool event as well. I'll provide more information about it. I'm kind of drawing a blank on the name of it right now, but I'll add that on the screen here. And when you think about events in the US, it's similar concept. We all have typically a 6x6, maybe 10x10 setup. Sometimes you can pay more for a bigger space. We've got the tent and the table, and then the products, they're pretty similar. Like here you can see crocheted products. Now, one thing that I will say that I don't feel like you get much from these vendors is the store or the brand's name on any signage. And going back to my point, I do think that this particular type of vendor event, it was more focused on selling products, not so much on branding. But I do think that's a miss, because if a shopper leaves the event and either maybe they come back in 6 months, come back in 1 month, or maybe they just love whatever they bought from the vendor and they want to buy more. If there's no sign telling them what the store's name is, they're not going to be able to look up that store on social media or their website and make a purchase from it later. So that's one thing that I always, at a minimum, tell you guys that you have to, when you're first getting started with pop-up events, at a bare minimum, you need to have a sign that is clearly visible to all of your shoppers with your store's name, and better yet, if it links to, or it doesn't link to, but it provides the name of either the website or your social media, or both. So that way, if you're like me taking videos and you see a particular booth that you want to check out later, you can go back to the video or the picture you took and access the website that way. Or what I was saying about, maybe you come back in a month or 6 months, you want to be able to recognize the name of the vendor that you purchased from previously, so that way when you see them, you're like, oh, it's such and such store. I want to go back and check out and see if they have more of what I bought previously, or if they have more colors or whatever, whatever it may be. I do think it's important to create a booth that is easily identifiable, especially for repeat customers. So just food for thought. Again, it's crazy. This was such a big night market. I mean, I think I have repeated a couple of booths. I might have walked down the same row twice without realizing it. So we might have seen a couple booths twice, but for the most part, we're looking at new booths that I haven't shown previously, because this was such a big event. and it was really cool. I really enjoyed getting to check out all the styles of the clothing that they were selling, and I was able to shop for some souvenirs for my own friends and family back home to share with them, and some keepsakes for myself and my husband. So like I mentioned, I went to this event, and then we also went to the pop-ups in Japan and South Korea. We were taking an 18-day trip to Asia. So we started in Japan, and then from there we went to Singapore. And in Singapore, I actually didn't stumble upon any like vendor events like this. I think that, well, I don't know that there is a common in Singapore. I could be wrong about that, and maybe I just, I wasn't there long enough or didn't go to the right area. But the way that they have food vendors set up, I know that it's like just kind of like their food markets are a little bit nicer, and they're covered, and they have these I think they're called hawker centers. I can share the name here, but anyway, it just felt different in Singapore, like their food marketplaces. And then from there we went to Thailand, so we were able to find this pop-up event, vendor event, whatever you want to call it. And then from there we went to South Korea, and again we found, I think it was kind of, the one in South Korea was more of a food festival, but it was really cool. There were a ton of food trucks. If you are a food vendor and you want to get some inspiration from food truck vendors, I do think I want to create a dedicated food truck video very soon. I feel like I've been talking about that for a while, and I just haven't gotten around to it. So that's on my list of videos to create. And on that note, if you have a particular style of product that you sell and you're looking for more inspiration for that particular style of product, let me know in the comments, and I will plan to add it to my list to create. So far, I've created videos for candle vendors, skincare vendors, clothing vendors, jewelry accessory vendors. I've done food focused vendor events, videos. I've done, what else? Kids and baby. And I'm probably forgetting a couple. So if your particular style of product was not listed just now, let me know in the comments, and I'll plan to create a video for it. And for the ones that I did just list, I will link to all of those videos in the description bar down below. All right, so we're getting close to the end, and here we can actually see the second night market that I went to. And like I said, it was only a 5-minute walk from the first market, and that one had a ton of food vendors also. But here you can see, I didn't film as many or record as many of these vendors, but I did get a quick couple of clips of some of the vendors, just to kind of show you how they were a little bit of a different style of booth than the previous. This was a covered area, but it didn't have low tents because it was covered like up high, if that makes sense. And my husband, of course, he needed a new Hawaiian shirt, so he was able to find a vendor selling those. But what I wanted to point out here is actually that this vendor was using IKEA bags to transport the clothing, just like I do, just like I share with you guys. It's a great way to transport clothing products, is using those IKEA bags. So I just thought that was funny that we, two different parts of the world, and we're both using the same type of bag to transport our clothing for pop-up events. All right, with that, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe. Let me know if you have any questions, or if there are any type of particular videos you want me to focus on in the future. And if you're a pop-up vendor looking to find new pop-up events, you need to get on the wait list for my brand new app that's going to make your life so much easier. It's going to help you find events in your area to sign up for, and it's going to allow you to read reviews of those events so that you know which events to avoid and which events will actually bring you all of the money, all of the sales that you deserve. So make sure you sign up for the email list so that you can get early access. And with that, I'll see you guys next time.